Hello, and welcome to the ongoing Learning Rivals of Aether 2 series. In this video, we are going to be talking about aerial movement. As always with this series, I'm not only going to explain how things are done, but why you should do them so you can understand the game at a deeper level. We will be covering how you leave the ground, what you can do in the air, and coming back down. So let's get started. First is leaving the ground, and there are three main ways this is going to happen. The obvious way to get airborne is by jumping. You can short hop by holding jump for 4 frames or less. Next is a full hop, which happens if you hold jump for longer than 4 frames. And finally is the wall jump, which, depending on your control options, will be performed by either tapping towards and away from the wall, or holding towards the wall and hitting jump. Dropping is more simple than jumping. By running off a ledge or hard pressing down on a platform, you become aerial without any upwards momentum. This is good for pressuring grounded opponents. Finally, you can become airborne by getting hit. Depending on your percentage, you can be sent into tumble, which limits your options, and I'll fully explain later. But for now, just know that you don't want this to happen. At low percents, it can be avoided by crouch canceling or floor hugging, which is by holding down or tapping down while you are getting hit. So, why do you want to jump at all? I mean, most characters have faster movement with more attacks and options on the ground. So why does high level play look like this? Well, the answer is actually pretty simple, and it's because it gives you certain advantages that grounded movement and attacks don't. First is that you can access new attacks with different properties in the air. Perfect example of this is Zetterburn's down air, which is his strongest spike and only accessible in the air. Second is if you're comboing your opponent. Eventually, they're going to be sent into the air, and most characters want to follow that up. Thirdly, I need a little bit more time to explain it, but it's fairly easy to understand. When you let go of shield, there's a 15 frame or 1/4 of a second period where you are releasing shield. This is a long time, and in most cases you won't be able to punish the enemy for this poor aggression with an attack unless you jump out of shield, which allows you to attack much quicker. Houston, we have liftoff, but what do we do now? If you're coming from other fighting games, your options in the air and comboing are going to be the two biggest differences that you're going to have to get used to. Where typical aerial movement in those games is restrictive due to guarding being directional with high-low mix-ups, aerial movement is a lot more freeform since Rivals 2 has a shield button with no high or low blocking. In my opinion, this freedom of movement is what makes this game special and expressive. So let's cover what you can do and why you might want to do it. Again with the obvious, do nothing and fall. While on the surface this seems like something you would never want to do, it actually has a useful application. It's common to punish an unsafe aerial with a shield grab, but by landing on the ground and grabbing your opponent, you can win that interaction and leave them guessing the next time you approach. This is called a tomahawk grab. Your next option is drifting. Every character has a different speed at which they drift. Characters like Fleet have high airspeed, versus characters like Rano have low airspeed. Drifting can be done during every other action that doesn't force movement, so using it in conjunction with these other options makes it crucial to improving your gameplay. Once you're at the peak of your jump, you can fast fall by hard pressing down. This is useful as it speeds up your movement and returns you to the ground faster. You can use this during recovery as well to mix up your approach angle. By hitting shield, you air dodge in place. You can also air dodge in a direction by angling your left stick. In Rivals, the air dodge leaves you actionable afterwards, so it's useful when you're recovering to either air dodge an attack or reposition closer to stage. If you hit jump while in the air, you get a double jump. This is useful for getting higher and recovering, but there's no short double jump or high double jump, there's only one height of double jump. As I alluded to earlier, you get 5 aerial attacks which are not available on the ground. Often, these are some of the best moves your character has access to. Your goal while in the air is usually to hit one of these moves. Your specials in the air are fundamentally the same moves, but some gain new properties. For example, Zetterburn's down special turns from a way to put fire on the ground with a small hitbox to an aggressive dive bomb core to his recovery. But his side special doesn't have any additional properties. A technique that only exists for aerial specials is special reversing. This is similar to a quality of life feature called special turnaround, but the difference is the timing. To special reverse, you have to input a hard press in the opposite direction quickly after you input the special. Special reversing will either swap the direction you're facing or the momentum depending on the move. Again, a list of these can be found on the Dragdown wiki. These techniques are core to characters like Rano and Maple, but every character has use for them. If you're just starting out at the game, I would suggest that this is something you tackle later on once you're more comfortable with moving around normally to add a little spice and variability to your movement. By hitting taunt in the air, you will slip up and enter special tumble. This is the same state as tumble with one key difference: you can't tech it. While there are some uses for this, it's not something that is widespread at any level of play. But if you don't know what a tech is, then this next section is something you should really pay attention to. What goes up must come down, and in Rivals, there are a couple ways for this to happen. It all depends on the state that you hit the ground in. If you land normally, you have a small amount of lag. Different aerial attacks have a different amount of lag that occurs if you land with them, but all of them are more than landing normally. You want to avoid this by timing your aerials to finish just before hitting the ground. Also, if you're coming from melee, just note here that there's no L cancelling. Certain recovery moves will put you into Special Fall, where you can only drift and sometimes wall jump. If you're curious whether or not you can wall jump after a special move, check it on the Drag Down wiki. They do a great job and are run by really helpful people. Landing from Special Fall often has the most lag compared to other options for landing. If you land with minimal vertical speed, you can achieve a no impact landing, which gives you zero landing lag. This technique is niche and hard to do on purpose, but honestly, I've never really used it intentionally, but it's good to recognize when this happens. If you are in tumble while you hit the ground, you get put into knockdown. This is not a state you want to be in, as it is a clear disadvantage compared to your opponent. This is one of the reasons you want to avoid being put into tumble in the first place. Luckily for us though, you can avoid being put into a hard knockdown by performing a tech. You do this by hitting shield up to 20 frames before you land. I'll cover techs a lot more in depth in our defense and offense guide, which is going to be upcoming. If you collide with the ground while performing an air dodge, you'll perform a wave land. Wavelands are essentially the same as wave dashes, however, you do them from an aerial state instead of your jump squat state. If you don't know what that means, go check out my previous video on grounded movement. One use that I like a lot for wavelands is sliding off of a platform and using an aerial before hitting the ground. I find it very good and surprising aggression. But like wave dashes, you could fill a video double this length just about wavelands and still not cover everything. If you land with an aerial move and slide off of the ledge during the recovery animation, you will cancel that ending lag and be airborne again. This is called a ledge cancel. At a beginner's level of play, this is most useful for canceling recovery moves like Zetterburn's down B or Rano's up B into down B. And that's the end of the video. If you have any suggestions for what you want to see covered in this series, let me know. Other than that, I would love to hear people's opinions about how these videos are coming out and what I could do to be more helpful to new players, as I have a decent amount of experience in this game and can forget what it's like to be a new player. Be safe, be kind, and have a good day.